Have you ever heard that muscle weighs more than fat? Well, there's certainly a lot of truth to it. The problem is, exactly how much more does muscle weigh than fat? So, the interesting thing about this statement is that there are people who will turn around and go, no, muscle does not weigh more than fat because a pound of muscle and a pound of fat weigh the same. And I get the semantics that they're trying to pull, but it's weak as hell. Muscle weighs more than fat because muscle is a more dense entity. Let me demonstrate. I'm going to take a piece of paper. And this piece of paper is going to be cut in exactly half, or as close to exactly half as I can get, but you'll get the visual understanding of what I'm getting at in a moment. Okay, so let's assume that I've got two entities here that are exactly the same dimensions in every way. They are exactly the same height, the same width, exactly the same thickness. So for all intents and purposes, these two pieces of paper, or we're going to call them these two entities, are exactly the same. So let's call this one here fat. We'll call this one here muscle. Okay, so if I actually had a piece of muscle and a piece of fat that were exactly the same measures, same dimensions, identical, without weighing them, I know right off the bat muscle weighs more. I don't know what they weigh, but if these are exactly the same dimensions, I know that muscle weighs more because muscle weighs more than fat. We know that. Now, of course, if you try to research this, you can hear some impressive numbers of how much more muscle weighs than fat. I've heard actually as much as 750% more. But of course, that's because it's on the internet and there's absolutely no truth to that whatsoever. As a matter of fact, what we do know is that muscle weighs approximately 23% more than fat. Again, assuming that we have exact dimensions. Okay, that being said, let me weigh my piece of fat. Okay, and let's just assume I take this away. I'm going to put this on a scale, and lo and behold, this piece of fat, bear with me on the example, weighs exactly 1 pound. Now, without measuring my piece of muscle, because I know the dimensions are the same, I know now that my piece of muscle actually weighs more than a pound. Now, since we know that muscle is approximately 23% heavier, it's fair to assume once I put this on the scale, I'm already going to know approximately what it's going to weigh, and it will in fact weigh approximately 1.25 pounds, roughly 1.23, 1.25 pounds. Okay, so that being said, if I wanted my piece of muscle to weigh equal to my piece of fat, it stands to reason that I would have to remove 1/4 pound of the muscle so that I have a piece of muscle that weighs the same as my piece of fat. We're not talking about dimensions anymore. Now we're talking about actual weight. So that means here I have to remove 1/4 pound in order for my two entities to be exactly 1 pound. And when I do make it exactly 1 pound, by taking off 1/4 here, you're going to see something rather eye-opening, I would hope, to say the least. Assuming I could rip a straight line, more or less. Really? Okay. Roughly, my quarter pound is now gone, and I'm left with two entities. My piece of muscle, my piece of fat. Now, I hope you're seeing this, because not only does muscle weigh more than fat, when you're talking about losing size, but you don't want to gain muscle, pay attention here. Fat is what takes up more space, not muscle. So you're worried about bulking up like you would see those characters on your fitness magazines that have clearly steroids or growth hormone injected into them. We're not talking about those people. We're talking about the norm. You want lean muscle tissue on your body. It takes up far less space than body fat. So don't use the excuse of not wanting to lift weights and exercise because you're worried that you're going to bulk up, and in doing so belittling the actual effort it takes to put muscle on your body. You want lean muscle tissue, as much of it as you can, because if you actually want to reduce your size, and especially if you want to reduce your overall body fat, lean muscle tissue, the single most active entity in your body responsible for burning